When it comes to choosing the parts for your next gaming PC build, the CPU and GPU is undoubtedly the best place to start. Get your CPU and GPU combo right, and you do a really good job of setting your build up for success, minimizing bottlenecks, maximizing value for money, and getting the most FPS possible. Which is why today I'll be talking you through the best CPU and GPU combos for a range of different price points and resolutions, and explaining how much you should spend and just how you should divide up the budget. Let's do this. The GeekaWhat Aorus Master 16 is here with a 240Hz 2560 by 1600 display, up to an RTX 5090 laptop GPU with a staggering 24 gigs of VRAM and Max-Q technology. The choice of CPU spans up to a Core Ultra 9 275HX2 with a turbo of up to 5.4 GHz and 24 cores for maximum power. What's more, there's also up to 64 gigs of RAM and room for a Gen 5 NVMe drive for the ultimate in storage speeds. Learn more at the first links in the description below. Now let me begin by talking about why the CPU and GPU combo is just so important and how much you should really spend on these two parts. Now in terms of importance, the reason these two parts make the most difference is because they're the driving force behind the gaming performance in your next build. The GPU handles all of the graphical rendering that's integral to getting good frame rates across the board, but without the right CPU pairing, a good GPU is really kind of wasted. The key here is about minimizing bottlenecks. Now we hear this word bottleneck come up all the time, but what does it actually mean? In short, it's where you've got one part holding another part back. Let's say for example you've got a powerful RTX 5080 GPU, but a really budget Ryzen 5 processor. The CPU simply won't be able to handle instructions quick enough, which will leave the GPU waiting for the CPU to complete its tasks before it can continue what it needs to do. Now a bottleneck in this particular instance with your CPU and GPU combo is particularly bad, as this is where you'll be spending the most money. They're often the two most expensive parts in your build, and having a bottleneck here is a really great way of wasting cash from your valuable PC building budget. But bottlenecking is more complicated than just going, the CPU and this GPU look good together, as bottlenecking is also heavily dependent on resolution and game. Some newer titles, for example Battlefield 6, tend to like high CPU utilization, and the CPU utilization you have also depends massively on the resolution that you're gaming at. You see, the thing is, a Ryzen 5 on an RTX 5080 won't actually bottleneck all that much at 4K. At 4K, the GPU's having to work really hard, and the CPU is unlikely to hold it back. Tune down to 1080p on the same powerful 5080 graphics card though, and the CPU becomes much more important. Now before diving into my recommendations, and I'll be working through from the cheapest to the most expensive, how much should you actually spend? The combinations I'll be working through here today range from as low as $450 pounds euros and range up to well over $2,500. If you're looking for entry-level 1080p gaming, my cheapest combos will be perfectly sufficient. If you're looking for good mid-range options, you can spend less than $1,000 and be very satisfied. And if you're looking for that top-end ultra settings 4K gaming performance, you might want to stretch that budget up to around $1,500. I'll leave latest pricing and availability for all the parts mentioned today at Amazon and Newegg in the description below. As a general rule of thumb, you also want to spend around half of your build budget on the CPU and GPU combo. For more expensive builds, this can differ as you've got more money to play with, and for cheaper builds, you may find yourself allocating slightly less than half of the budget, as more of your cash is taken up by things like the case, cooler, power supply, RAM, and SSD, especially in the current market with RAM prices the way they are. But that's a topic for another video. Now, let's begin, shall we, with the cheapest CPU and GPU combo. What would I actually recommend? Now, I'm going to start off with an actually slightly controversial option, the Ryzen 5 7600 from last generation, and this, the 8GB RX 9060 XT. Now, this combination is going to set you back around about that $400 to $450 price point, and for that, in my opinion, offers up exceptional 1080p gaming performance. The one problem that you'll see with this CPU and GPU combo is that I've gone for the 8GB derivative of AMD's RX 9060 XT. I'm going to talk more about that in a moment, but first let's look at the performance that this combo offers up for its relatively affordable price point. In arc raiders at 1080p high settings, this combination pulls in an average of 134 frames per second all told. Not bad for just $400 to $450. Tune up to 1440p again in arc raiders, and surprisingly we still see a very playable frame rate of over 90 frames per second. Back down at 1080p in Battlefield 6 at the high settings preset rasterization, and results were once again fantastic with 100 121 frames per second on average from this CPU and GPU combo. Tune up to 1440p and the frame rate sits well above that all-important 60 FPS marker with nearly 80 FPS on average. Even in the brand new COD Black Ops 7, specifically the Zombies mode, at that high settings preset, the 9060 XT and 7600 still maintains well over 100 frames per second on average. Move through into Hogwarts Legacy, which is a fairly CPU-bound game, and a game that likes VRAM, and again this combo does well, with 111.8 frames per second on average. Even 1440p isn't a bad showing, with an average of 82 frames per second. Now, for the money that this combo is going to cost you, you're going to get some great gaming performance. And of course you get access to that AM5 platform with AMD's newer lineup of motherboards, newer CPU socket, and support for PCI Gen 5. The only problem with this combo is the VRAM version of the 9060 XT. In 2025, for AMD and Nvidia to still be shipping 8GB cards is actually kind of painful, and means that GPUs like this do tend to struggle more at 1440p. The reason I still opted to go for this though is that when you look at a cost per frame and a pure performance basis, it's still better than the alternatives. It's far more powerful than the slightly cheaper RTX 5050, it's more powerful than Intel's Arc B580 despite its higher VRAM variant, and the 16GB version of the 9060 XT is actually saved for my next CPU and GPU combo. And that CPU and GPU combo sees me keep the CPU exactly the same. Now, in terms of the performance difference, we can see there are a few changes here across the board. At 1080p in Battlefield 6 on the high preset, we see the 16GB 9060 XT edge out the 8GB combo by around 9 frames per second. Tune up to 1440p and this frame rate delta actually gets quite sizably larger, moving up to an over 14 FPS gap between the two options. Move into Call of Duty's Black Ops 7 Zombies, and at 1080p there's very little difference between the 16 and 8GB 9060 XTs. In fact, other than the 1 and 0.1% lows, the averages are identical at 1080p high, while moving up to 1440p again sees a fairly similar story. The 16GB variant faster, but only by around 2 FPS on average. These results aren't necessarily shared in all titles. For example, Hogwarts Legacy, which was our next test, 127.4 to the 111.8 at 1080p, and 94.7 to just 82.8 at 1440p on the high preset. And when you consider the fact that these two cards are completely identical apart from video memory, there's perhaps no better set of tests that underline just how important and useful extra VRAM is. But what if you've got a bit more money to spend? And again, I feel that this combo I'm about to recommend could actually be a slightly controversial choice, and one that requires some explanation. Now, clocking in at around 200 for the CPU and around 500 for the GPU, this combo ups our budget by a pretty considerable amount, and the RTX 5070 and Ryzen 5 9600X is my pick for entry-level 1440p gaming that's going to give you fantastic results across the board. And by the way, when I say entry-level, I don't mean that this is cheap, I just mean that for 1440p, it's a good entry point. Now, you might be thinking, okay, James, the CPU I get, the 9600X, 6 cores, 12 threads, and very solid clock speeds. What about the GPU? Why not go for AMD's evidently faster and cheaper 9070 non-XT? Well, the truth of the matter is, if you look at current pricing, the 5070 actually represents slightly better value for money. And of course, we get Nvidia's more mature ray tracing, better DLSS technology, and you haven't got to use it, frame generation. But you'll be glad to know all the benchmarks in today's video are based on rasterization only. So no frame gen, no FSR, no DLSS, none of the extra stuff, just pure gaming performance. Moving into the benchmarks, and you can see this extra cash is put to work in a really big way. The 5070 and Arc Raiders at 1080p high, pulling in over 200 FPS, with a massive difference to our last combo. 1440p high, pulling in just shy of 150 frames per second, again pulling in a huge advantage versus the 9060 XT and 7600. 4K high sees a playable frame rate with 87 FPS in Arc Raiders 2, which is perhaps surprising in the 5070's favour. Battlefield 6 at 1080p high shows how overpowered this combo is for that lower res gaming, with an average of 138 frames per second, while jumping up to 1440p delivers 125 on average. 4K frame rates were once again playable, but we did suffer badly with 1 and 0.1% lows, with an average of 71 FPS. Call of Duty's Black Ops 6 Zombies at 1080p high delivered 143 frames per second, while 1440p still saw the GPU and CPU here sit above that 100 FPS marker, while 4K and Black Ops 7 was arguably a humbling experience for the 5070 and 9600X. Finally, in Hogwarts Legacy at both 1080 and 1440p, we see this combo perform well, with the 5070 5070 and 9600X, pulling in a very respectable set of results. Now you might be wondering why the 5070 only has 12 gigs of video memory by comparison to the RX 9060 XT16, and it's all to do with the size of memory modules and memory configuration used. If anything, the 16 gig on the 9060 XT is overkill, and 12 gigs is a more proportional amount for a GPU at this price point. With that being said, the 9070, which would be an alternative to the 5070 in this combo, does offer up really strong performance with 4 gigs of extra VRAM. Now, if you've got a bit more money to spend, AMD GPUs for me come back into the frame, with my next combo kind of representing a 2-in-1 choice. Because if you've got a little more money to spend, you'll want to pick up the Ryzen 5 9600X and 9070 XT, and if you've got around 8850, you'll want to pick up the 9070 XT and 7800X 3D instead. That's right, 2 combos with the same GPU, and hopefully the benchmarks will explain what I mean here. Now, in some CPU-bound titles at the lower 1080p resolution, you can see the big difference. The 9070 XT and 9600X in Hogwarts Legacy at 1080p high pull in a solid 136 FPS, but upgrading to the 7800X 3D unlocks a further 30 frames per second. Tune up to 1440p high, and we actually see the results going the other direction, with the Ryzen 5 combo edging out the 7800X 3D by 0.3 frames per second, while at 4K high, the difference between these two combos, while pronounced, is not nearly as large as it was at that 1080p resolution. In Arc Raiders at 1080p high, we actually again see the 9600X variant win out against the 7800X 3D, results that are mirrored at both 1080p and 1440p high, showing that the advantage of a more expensive CPU is very dependent on not only resolution, but game optimization too. While Battlefield 6 at 1080p high with its strong CPU optimizations sees the 9070 XT and 7800X 3D pull in an astonishing 207 FPS, representing a big improvement over the Ryzen 5 based alternative. Tune up to 1440p and we see the advantage of the higher end CPU diminish slightly, but still provide an extra 9 frames per second from the more expensive CPU. In Call of Duty's Black Ops 7 Zombies at 1080p high, the 9070 XT once again stormed to a pretty resounding victory, actually offering up even better frame rates than the RTX 5080, while tuning up to that 1440p high preset sees the advantage of the 7800X 3D shrink to its 9600X counterpart. For those of you wondering why I've not gone for the 9800X 3D, and instead I'm recommending the 7800X 3D here, is price. The 7800X 3D is really the second or third fastest chip out there, only behind the 9950 and 9800X 3D as things stand. Though it does look like AMD have just confirmed the upcoming launch of the 9850X 3D, but you get the point. Ultimately, what that means is the extra firepower of the 98 is only really useful in the more expensive combos, which I'll be moving on to in a moment, and not necessarily at what is more of an upper mid-range price point. And that brings me nicely on to the final 2 combos that I want to talk about today. And I am of course talking about the RTX 5080 and RTX 5090. Now for both of these combos, I would pair the GPUs here with the AMD 9800X 3D. Here you will see a more pronounced advantage of the higher end CPU, and the extra cost of the 98 over the 78 becomes worth it. Now for the vast majority of people, the 5080 and 9800X 3D will be more than sufficient. The 5090 is an incredible GPU, and when paired up with the 9800X 3D is quite possibly the best hardware combo on the market right now. Ultimately, if you want the absolute best performance and are willing to pay a hefty price premium for the privilege, the 5090 is a good card to consider. And if you use your PC for content creation in your spare time and need the extra graphical firepower, the 5090 does make a lot of sense. But for most mainstream gaming users, the 5080 will be just fine. And if you're not playing at all-out 4K, you probably don't need either of these cards anyway. In Arc Raiders at 1080p high to cover all the resolutions, the 5090 and 5080 unsurprisingly top the charts. 1440p sees them hold this position, with the 5090 taking a resounding lead over the 5080, while 4K sees the 5090 stretch its legs further, and when paired up with the 9800X 3D, pull in more than 170 FPS to the 5080 and 9800X 3D's 120. In Battlefield 6 at 1080p high, the gap is closed between the 5090 and 5080, with the 9070 XT actually sneaking in the middle by 0.9 FPS. Move up to 1440p and the 5080 regains the second spot, losing only to the 5090, which delivers around 17 more FPS on average. Battlefield 6 at 4K high rasterization sees the 5090 and 9800X 3D pull in an incredible 139 FPS to the 5080 and 9800X 3D's 111. In Black Ops 7 Zombies at 1080p high, the 5090 again tops the charts, with the 9070 XT and 7800X 3D splitting the difference difference between it and the 5080 based combo. 1440p high sees the 5090 pull an incredible lead over the 5080 and 9800X3D, around about that 60 FPS marker, which is insane. At 4K high, the 5090 again tops the chart, and the 9070 XT actually really impressive, and showing that in some instances, 4K, it can make a lot of sense. In Hogwarts Legacy at 1080p high rasterization, the 5090 and 5080 top the charts. At 1440p, they again do the same, this time the 9070 XT and 9600X far behind, while at 4K we see an incredible 164 FPS from the 5090 and 9800X3D, representing around a 60 FPS or 60% improvement on the 5080 and 9800X3D. The final game we tested was Marvel's Rivals at 1080p high rasterization. Here the 5090 and 9800X3D achieved nearly 250 FPS to the 5080 and 9800X3D's 200. At 1440p, the gap shrinks to around 37 FPS and still rules heavily in the 5090's favour, while at 4K we see the 5090 in a league of its own, so much so that the 5090's 1% lows were actually nearly as high as the 5080's average overall. The truth is, any of the CPU and GPU combos I've talked about today will serve you incredibly well for your next build. Nvidia clearly have a lockout at the top, and while AMD's 9070 XT is making more progress with continual driver optimizations and game tweaks, it's clear that Nvidia still regain those top slots. I think for me what's interesting is that the Nvidia have managed to get the 5070 back into the mix through a range of price adjustments and good stock in the market. You see, the thing is, GPU prices are seemingly the lowest they've been in a long time. Whether that will continue or whether the ongoing memory shortage will leak over and affect graphics cards is yet to be seen. Personally, I don't think GPUs are going to get any cheaper, and if you're looking for a new CPU and GPU combo, now might just be the time to buy. Which one of these do you think you guys would go for? How much do you think you'd spend? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.